Hello and welcome to Creativity Uncovered. My name is Abby Gatling and I am on a journey to uncover how everyday people find inspiration, get inventive, and open their imagination. Basically, I want to know how people find creative solutions at home, work, play, and everything in between. And my goal for this podcast is that by the end of it, you'll be armed with a whole suite of tried and tested ways to summon creativity the next time that you need it. Now, today I'm speaking with dreamworker Megan Mary. She helps people understand their dreams and how to interpret them and apply them in their lives. And this is an area that I do not know much about. So I'm really keen to hear more and see how this applies to creativity. So welcome, Megan.
Thank you, Abby. So glad to be here.
Megan's actually joining me all the way from Idaho, USA.
Yes.
International, love it.
Yes.
So there's a lot to talk about today. But before we jump fully into it, I just want to go back a tiny little bit. I just did my little brief one-liner about dreamwork. But to clarify for everyone, this is not dreams as in your goals in life. These are literal dreams, as in what you do when you are sleeping. So
Correct.
that we're all on the same page. But just to also kind of elaborate a little bit further, let's just start with essentially what is a dream?
Okay. So when we are going through our daily life, we are in beta brainwave state. And when we meditate or when we sleep, we go into theta brainwave state. And so it's a totally different brainwave, totally different energetic manner of being. And it is where we can end up accessing our subconscious. So only 5% of our brain is conscious, and 95% of our brain is subconscious.
Wow.
So a huge amount of that iceberg is underwater. And we don't really ever understand or connect with it, but it dramatically influences our daily life, our decisions, our behavior, our patterns, our emotions, our perspectives on things. And our dreams are derived entirely from our subconscious. So they essentially are messages from our subconscious to help us live more fuller lives if we can listen to them and decode them.
Right. Wow, I never knew that about not using the majority of the brain. That is unbelievable. And so I guess that leads into the next thing. Do you help people unlock that? Like, what is dream work exactly?
I do. Yes. So it's dream work is the process of recording and analyzing and integrating the content of your dreams. And so I've devised a method that I use with my clients, and it's called the Dream Mirror Method. And it's 4 steps that help you decode and understand the meanings that your dream is trying to tell you.
Right. What are the 4 steps?
The first step, well, the 4 steps are memory, mood, mirror, and metaphor. And so the first step is memory, and that's where you record your dream. So some people don't remember their dreams and they think they're not dreaming, but they are. Everybody dreams about 5 to 6 dreams a night. You just might not be remembering them. So the first step is really using techniques to increase your dream recall and really focusing on that intention to recall your dreams. And when you write it down in your dream journal, if you do remember it, give the dream a title. So, as if it were a little short story, what would you name it in a short phrase?
Oh,
So, the second step is called mood. And that's where you write down in your journal the mood that you had before you went to sleep, the mood that you experienced in your dream, which might be more than one if the scenes change, and then the mood you had when you woke up. Because when we sleep, our logical brain is turned off, but our emotional brain is turned on. And that's why we experience our dreams as if they really happened emotionally. And so we really want to pay attention to how we're feeling in the dream and then the feeling that we're left with once we wake up from the dream, because that can really help us hone in on the meaning of the dream.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I've definitely had that experience where you wake up and your dream felt so real, it's actually affected your mood the next day.
Right, I call that a dream hangover. Yes, because you feel it and you feel like it really happened and you just can't get over it because your brain processed it like it did, right?
Yeah.
So then the third step is mirror. And that's what really makes this method unique, because unlike a dream dictionary, I don't then tell you what your dream means. I don't say, well, you had a dream about a shoe or a car, so it means this. Instead, I have you detail all the different aspects of your dream, and then I ask you questions about them to draw out really what that meaning is for you. So, in the mirror step, we look at the people, the places, the situations, the actions, the colors, the numbers, the weather, and if there's music, all of those elements. And so, the more detailed that your dream record can be, the better.
Mm.
And in the last step, metaphor, we look at the mood and the mirror and your title of your dream and put it all together to see how the dream is a metaphor for your waking life, and how the dream is really a story, like a parable that has a meaning and a message just for you from your subconscious.
Wow. Okay. I never realized there was so much meaning embedded within your dreams. I kind of just thought it was your imagination running wild. Um,
Exactly.
that's very interesting. How did you get into this, if I may ask?
Well, when I was younger, when I was a little girl, I always had recurring both really awesome flying dreams and also really scary nightmares. And I always wanted to know what they meant. And I was always so fascinated with the dream world and the fact that we went there every night, and why did we have to go there, and what could we, what was possible there. And I also was really fascinated with just everything that was mystical or magical or esoteric or not known. And that was part of the reason that I was fascinated with Halloween when I was little, because it was the one day of the year that everybody really acknowledged that spirits were around us. And it really made me want to be part of that world. And I felt close to that, and I wanted that all the time. And it wasn't until I got really sick as an adult and I was diagnosed with several chronic illnesses all at once, that I actually started to do some really deep introspection. And as part of my healing journey, I was starting to meditate, and I would meditate multiple times a day. And that really, being in that theta state, really opened up a whole new world for me. And I essentially felt called to do this work, and that I had to come out of my, shadow and really share what I felt could be really transformational for everyone else.
Wow, I think that's really cool. I love hearing when people have a career path or, a work journey that is based on this kind of calling, this little intuition. I think that's great that
Yes.
you listen to that. So, is a dream the same as a nightmare?
Yes. And the reason that nightmares are just more powerful is because of the emotions. So the
Mm.
emotions are really high, and that is means that the meaning is very, very full of passion. It's very important, right? There's something very emotionally driven about that content, about that dream theme.
Yeah, yeah. So it's probably more leaning towards the negative emotions rather than the positive emotions.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. But it still has the same level of meaning in your life.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes.
wow.
As do the mundane dreams, the ones that you think are just silly and don't mean anything.
So, what sort of what sort of meaning can you derive from these things? Is it like, oh, I knew I should have been a doctor. Why didn't I go down that path? Or I should buy the red car, not the blue one. Or like, what type of meaning can we derive from these things?
Mm-hmm. Well, you can start to see it reveals for you things that either you are aware of, but you're resisting, or that you're not aware of. So when I first started doing this work, I realized that as an introvert, this is going to be a really big challenge because nobody's going to want to work with me unless I reveal myself and come out and do podcasts and go on video and really let people see what I'm like. But that was very difficult for me. Being an introvert. And so I had many dreams over those months when I was trying to convince myself to do this about me closing doors, closing shades, hiding behind the blinds, really trying to metaphorically hide. And I realized that that was a recurring theme in my dream. And it was really trying to say to me, hey, it's not, you're not going to be able to do this if you keep hiding. And it was really a message and an opportunity for me to realize where my fear was based, how I was blocked, and how that was preventing my success, and what I needed to do in order to integrate that and move forward.
Wow, that's so interesting that you can do the interpretation on yourself. Like, is that harder than working with someone else?
No, it's actually easier because you know.
Yeah.
Right?
No.
So you're kind of like, oh yeah, it's like it's harder to take action on it because and so if someone else were to call you on it, then that would probably be easier to then take action on it. But
that's so funny. It's kind of like your body is trying to hold you accountable for something. Like, I know I should be doing that, and you're just reminding me until I actually do it.
Right. Yeah. But it's really beneficial,
Yeah. Yeah. It's a fascinating thing. And you mentioned meditation before. Is that another way of sort of going into a dreamlike state?
Yes, actually, it's very, very beneficial for visualizations. So often there will be meditation tracks that you can listen to that are guided meditations that will take you through a visualization, and that is very much like a waking dream, essentially. And you can use that state to create intentions, to manifest dreams, to reconsider dreams whose trajectory you don't like. So if you have a nightmare, you could re-enter that dream in the waking state during a visualization and actually imagine an alternate ending to it to help your subconscious blend that into a different outcome.
Oh, wow. It sounds very sci-fi, to go back into your dreams and change
Yeah.
the state of it.
I find it so mysteriously fascinating. I mean, that's really why it's my passion, because it's so mysterious, right? People just don't understand it.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's just really interesting that there's just so much about, the human body and brain, and that we just don't know about, and we're discovering along the way, and just how powerful it is. It seems like this is a way of unlocking this little part that probably the majority of people don't even access at any point in time.
Correct. Yes. And a lot of people just shut it off completely. They just subconsciously decide, okay, I'm not listening to that. And then they'll go for years and say, oh, I don't dream, or I don't remember them, because they've subconsciously shut that off.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I always remember my nightmares. I don't remember any dreams whatsoever. Somehow my subconscious must be switching that off.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or I haven't practiced my skill of being able to recall as yet.
Right. So you're just remembering the most powerful emotional ones because they're leaving that emotional imprint on you, but you're not necessarily remembering the ones that don't have that strong emotional drive, but you can. And since you're at least remembering some, it really, I call it backwards thinking when you wake up in the morning and you're really just straddling that world between the theta and the beta, between the dream world and the waking world. That's when your chances are greatest of remembering where you just were, what you were just doing. And so in those few moments right when you wake up, that's when you can capture that best.
So it's best to do this type of thing first thing in the morning.
Absolutely. Right when you wake up.
Yeah,
Yes. Before you start thinking about your day, before you get up. Yeah, it's best to, because within 5 minutes, you'll forget 50% of the dream. And after that, you might not remember it at all. Something might trigger it later in the day. You'll say, oh, I just remembered a dream I had, but you might not.
Wow. So then what does this have to do with creativity? Like what's the link between dream work and creativity?
So I am writing a fiction novel, and I got the idea for it from a dream. And I'm not the first one. So there's so many famous inventors, authors, musicians, painters, the list goes on, of really famous historical people who have been inspired by their dreams. So Albert Einstein created the theory of relativity. The sewing machine was invented from a dream. The movie Inception, the movie series, and the books of Twilight. There's so many things. The molecule of benzene. There's just, and Mary Shelley, of course, came up with Frankenstein from a dream. So many famous people have done this, and it's available to all of us. So it's actually, I've heard of it actually being taught in business school, where they were having everybody that was going through the business school take the dream class, because it really was going to help them come up with fresh ideas for their products and for their marketing. And so there's a huge treasure trove. And that's why I call one of my dream journeys, which is a series of dream sessions, the treasure box, because our subconscious is really a treasure box of endless inspiration that we can tap if we are looking for creative solutions.
Right. So do you have to then go to sleep going, I would like a solution, please?
Yes. Actually, you do.
Yes. Do you? Wow. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
And how do you do that? Do you actually physically have to say that out loud, or how does that work?
You can write it down. You can write down your intention, or you can just immerse yourself in whatever that is that you're trying to get the solution to. So if you're working on a book, for example, since we were just talking about that, you might be working on that right before you go to bed. So you're immersed in it, trying what you're trying to figure out. If you're trying to come up with a solution about something else, think about that intently and the emotion that you have around that and that situation when you go to sleep, and write it down. It's very much like an affirmation, but it's the power of intention. And think about it while you're falling asleep. And then your brain continues to work on it throughout the night and can present you with dreams. It'll pick little pieces from your subconscious and put it together in this story that might seemingly not seem like, well, that's not the answer. I just dreamt of a giraffe. What does that have to do with it? My question. But if you start applying the method and you start picking apart, okay, well, what does a giraffe represent to me? And what could this mean metaphorically? Then you start to see the actual message that is hidden in the dream content.
Right. So I feel like, that's great for coming up with new ideas. Can it help you with creative blocks, do you think?
Oh, absolutely.
Like you can't be expected to have like a nap in the middle of the day if you're running up against a block. You do have to wait for nighttime, or is that when you can go into your meditation?
Oh, you can do you could do the meditation during the day. You could also sleep during the day if you had the time. But otherwise, yeah, it's totally something that I do all the time as I'm writing my novel and I'm trying to figure out, okay, what happens now? What do I do with this scene? What do I do now with the trajectory of the plot? And so I will think about it. And, many times I'll get random ideas and then I'll wake up with that in my head and then I'll go to write because I write in the morning and I'll integrate whatever it was that came to me in the dream.
So how many giraffes do you have in your book?
No, that was just a random example. I don't. But I have cats.
Is there ever the case where something comes to you and you're like, this is what this means, and then you apply and then later you're like, actually no, that's not what that means? Like, can the meaning change over time, or is the first thing that you interpret it as the most correct?
I think the only reason that that would change is if your association with that changed. So, for example, if you told me you had a dream about a snake and it was last night, and I ask you, well, how do you feel about a snake? What are your associations with your snake? And you say, well, my roommate has one and I really enjoy hanging out with it. Okay, that's going to be different from, well, this is a dream that I had when I was 7 and I was terrified because there was one in my bedroom. So what matters is your life experience and your association and feeling about that at the time that you're having the dream. So if your association about that or feeling about that changes, then that meaning would be different if you were to have it again, if that makes sense. So it's really it's at the moment in time that you're having the dream is where that is best derived from.
Yeah, I can see how what's immediately preceding your dream definitely affected. So yeah, if it was a bad experience or a good experience, it would have different meanings to you. So it's kind of a very reflective process and kind of
very much so
unlocking your subconscious.
Yes.
Is it
very much so?
I think that's a very cool process. So what about people who some of the listeners on our podcast are people who would like to have more creativity in their life. Can they use these practices to do that?
Yes, absolutely. So the first step, of course, is to train yourself to remember your dreams and really have the intention that you're going to have a way that you're going to record them, whether it's in a journal, writing it down, or maybe you want to type it into your phone. There's electronic journals nowadays, or maybe you just want to talk it into your phone and you want to record it as an audio file. However it's best for you, just start recording and also start having the intent to do that. So when you wake up, start thinking about your dreams versus thinking about your day, and take that small bit of time to see if you can start to capture that. Because the more you train yourself to do that, the more you're going to remember, and the more content you're going to get, and the more information you're going to get.
So they're saying, with people going, I want more creativity, they need to think intently about that prior to going to sleep. How can I find more creativity in my life? And then their subconscious will bring it out to them.
Yes, because the subconscious is incredibly creative. I mean, think about our dreams. That's why people think they don't make sense, because they're so out there, right? And you feel like, well, I don't even want to explain this because it's so strange. I don't even know how to explain this, right? And that's part of the reason that I do what I do, so that people have a place to discuss that.
So why is it important for people to do this? I know you're saying there's like all these benefits, but what happens if you don't do this? Are you missing out on something?
Because I feel like so many people are going through life and they have these big existential questions about, why am I here, and what's my purpose, and what are my gifts or talents, and why does this keep happening in my life, or how can I change my life, or what am I missing to make it more exciting, or whatever it might be that they're seeking, right? And they're looking outside themselves for that answer. And we really have the answers inside ourselves, inside our minds, inside our spirits. And so it's really an empowering exercise saying, hey, let's take a moment and see what inside says, because we really can be our own compass. We really can be our own guidance. And of course, it's wonderful to have support around you, and that's great, but it's much more empowering to be able to actually realize that there's an untapped potential inside yourself.
I mean, that's very empowering. As you're saying that, like, that is perfect. That
yes.
It's all with that inside that you just need to know how to unlock it.
Right.
And can everyone do this if they just practice hard enough?
Yes. I mean, the only reason you wouldn't be able to truly remember your dreams is if you had some sort of medical condition, if you're suffering from depression, if you're taking certain medications, or if you've had certain injuries to parts of your brain. But otherwise, you should fully be able to take advantage of this, and with practice, develop this.
Yeah, that's cool. So let's talk about your book. So your book came to you in your dream. Did you think about writing a book prior to that? Was it something that you had sort of manifested, or was it completely out of the blue?
I would say out of the blue, because I always wanted to write a book someday, but I didn't have full intent my whole life to do that. And so it was just a very powerful vision that I said, okay, I feel like I really have to make this come alive. And it felt very strong that I needed to do that. But I didn't know what the rest of it was around it. I mean, you have to take one idea, one scene, and then create 70,000 words from it. So that was the part that what stalled me out, because I was like, okay, I get that it's about this and that, but now what? How do I make this whole world around
it? So do you remember what you dreamed about? Like, was it the idea of a book, or was it the topic of your book, or your characters? What was it?
It was the characters. Yeah.
Okay. And so you've been presented with this character, and your intuition made you feel like it needed to be a book.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
And so now when you're writing it, you're asking your subconscious to help you write the next chapter.
Yes. Yes. And I mean, it's almost finished. There's just, some aspects to it that need a little bit of tightening up, wrapping up at the end. Yes. But
yeah. And what's it about?
It's set at Halloween, and it's a story about a woman that goes to investigate her missing eccentric aunt, but discovers a magical legacy that she did not know about. And it happens at Halloween. And so there's lots of cats and pumpkins and dreams involved.
That's cool. So it's giving you a theme that you already love, because you said before that you love Halloween.
Yes. So it's everything I love. Yes.
Yeah, it's very convenient. I like that.
Yes.
Imagine if there was an idea for a book about something you were not interested in whatsoever. You're like, oh, yeah. I have to do this. Oh, that's very cool. And so when do you expect to finish your book?
I expect to finish it by this Halloween and then publish it next Halloween.
Wow, that's cool.
Yes.
I'm always amazed by how long the process is for book writing and publishing and actually distribution. We've had a couple of writers on the podcast, and it's just an interesting little peek into that world that I didn't know much about. So congratulations for doing that. That's really cool.
Thank you.
And I also want to say thank you so much, Megan, for joining me today. That was a really eye-opening conversation. I definitely will try and think more about my dreams.
Yes, awesome. Well, I'm so glad that it's piqued some interest in you, and hopefully it has in your listeners as well.
Yeah, definitely. And what I'll do is I'll pop Megan's links to her website, and so if you would like to reach out to her and work on your dreams, then you can do so there. And I also want to say thank you to everyone who has tuned in to Creativity Uncovered today. I really hope this episode has inspired you and it helps you summon your creativity the next time that you need it.
If you've made it this far, a huge thank you for your support and tuning into today's episode. Creativity Uncovered has been lovingly recorded on the land of the Cubby Cubby people, and we pay our respect to elders past, present, and emerging. This podcast has been produced by my amazing team here at Crisp Communications, and the music you just heard was composed by James Gatling. If you liked this episode, please do share it around and help us on our mission to unlock more creativity in this world. You can also hit subscribe so you don't miss out on any new episode releases.